Divine greetings, ones and zeros, zeros and ones, boys and girls that are now men and women, kings and queens, gods and goddesses, spiritual beings of this divine matrix. Welcome to this live episode. My name is Clay. And today, in this throat chakra day, I'm here to express the truth of who I am, the truth of who I am being, the truth of who it is that I have been being. To have my being in a good space, to have my being in an authentic space. I'm doing my best to be as authentic as possible, and in so doing, speak the truth even when the truth is not palatable or when the truth exposes who I am, doing so in a vulnerable state and in a safe way. So today being the throat chakra day, that's what I'm doing. Now, the title of this live share is called Sowing Seeds of Authenticity in the Cancer New Moon. So, Cancer season or Cancer sign, the sign of Cancer has to do with family. And I'm seeing how pivotal it is for me to share this live, to have this expression. To have this expression in truth and to be in the truth of this expression in a way to make myself better, to make my mental mind better. As I've shared on other series or other lives before, I've gone through a spout of schizophrenia. I was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 2020, where I had a mental break. And from that point, life has been completely different to the degree where I have recalled 6 past lives and living in the confidence of that recollection, living in the confidence of that memory has not been easy for the ego, has not been easy for me to express the truth of what it is that I am seeing. And in so doing, as I have greetings in the chat, as I have come to this point of being in myself, I am seeing the necessity. Greetings in the chat, greetings inner standing, greetings Kome Combo, greetings. So as I was saying, the what I was saying again, let me recall, I lost my train of thought. Let me bring it forward. In being exposed to schizophrenia, yes, I have recalled 6 of my past lives, and in recalling those past lives, there are certain things that the ego wants to not disclose, right? Now, one of the things that I've come to accept, and I've been aware of this now for 4 years, is that one of the way to put it is that I have an imaginary family. I have an imaginary family. I have an imaginary partner. And this is in my subconscious. I found that I'm channeling energy to this imaginary partner and to this imaginary family. And in so doing, I am actually cheating on my current partner. I'm cheating on myself with myself, if that makes sense. Because I'm letting myself be something that I am not. I'm letting myself betray myself. because this imaginary partner is not in tune with my real self. So here is an example of what it is that I discovered or uncovered today. So today I saw that in my ego, I'm allowing my higher self to be enslaved. I'm allowing my higher self, my spirit, to be enslaved by my egoic self, by the demonic self, right? And I'm doing it through my ego, because the relationship that is supposed to be had is that your higher self is supposed to be your master. And as your higher self is your master, you are the servant to the higher self. Or you could say the slave. I prefer to say, in this relationship, your higher self is supposed to be your master and you're supposed to be the servant to your master. This is all yourself. However, in my relationship that I'm seeing, that I'm living, is that in my ego, I've allowed my higher self to be enslaved, and therefore being the slave, and the demonic self, the egoic self, to be the master. And in that relationship, the egoic self, with the knowledge of my past lives, have accounted for or have brought in these imaginary ideas of this person, the imaginary ideas of this self. And as I have brought in the imaginary idea of this person to this imaginary self, one of the things I have done is base this fictitious or imaginary character on a real person, right? And another aspect of that imaginary character is that imaginary character is actually a past life self. So there is fantasy being mixed in with idealism, or fantasy being, should I say idealism? Fantasy being mixed in with idealism, and that idealism being mixed in with reality, right? So the long and short of the situation is that I have come to the realization and the acceptance that I have an imaginary family. And as I have this imaginary family, the main point of this imaginary family is that I have an imaginary partner. And with that imaginary partner, I create these imaginary scenarios of a family. And the result of that is that I betray my current family, I betray my current self, I betray the ego, I betray the real me. I betray the real me with the ideal me. The ideal me is that one which is the egoic self, that one which is the fantasy-based self. And that is the essence of what it is that I'm talking about in this share. Because I want to sow that seed of authenticity in this new moon, because it relates to family, and because it relates to the family of myself, the family within my own nature. And when I talk about the family within, I'm talking about all the inner children that I have for myself. For example, the 1 to 7 year old, right? That's a chakra series, or a energy series of selves. And those 7 selves will multiply to 14, and then 14 to 28, and 28 to 56, right? I'm currently 44. So in this sharing of this self, greetings in the chat, in this sharing of this self, I'm bringing forth the acceptance and accountability and acknowledgement that this is how it is that I'm currently operating. So in particularly, I'm doing this so that I do not fall into the trap of thinking that I do not have an imaginary family, right? Because the first step to putting away something is to acknowledging that you have that thing. So the goal of sowing this seed of authenticity is to eventually is to get rid of the imaginary family, to get rid of the imaginary self, to get rid of the false self and the false family that I've created for this false self. And the first step in doing so, I'm fully recognizing, acknowledging, and accepting and allowing is to account for where it is that I have been putting my energy. And when I account for where it is that I've been misplacing my energy, it is in this false self that has this false family, that has this false partner. And acknowledging that this false partner is based on a real person. And it is for me to ensure that I do not bolster this false self with this real person, because then that would be making a connection to a detrimental connection in my psyche. So a lot of this work that I'm talking about is subconscious work, and it's only being known because I am a spiritual being. I understand fully that I am a spiritual being having a human experience, and I have a certain flow or a certain understanding, there you go, a certain understanding of the subconscious mind. And as I have a certain understanding of my own subconscious mind and how the subconscious mind of humans work, and the attracting and detracting factors, the manifesting and transmutating factors, as I've come to accept that you create your own world. As human beings, we create our own world. I have created this imaginary self, and it is up to me to break down, to transmute this imaginary self into the real self, into the true self. So that is what I am in the process of doing, and I intend to speak more in this way from this point on, in the truth of the situation. As today's throat chakra deals with the truth and lies of your expression, the truth and lies of what it is that you are expressing in life. So I'm speaking to that nature. Now, in the chat, if there's anyone who has any questions or any comments, I'm accepting well-to-do comments, well-to-do questions, whether it is regarding to spirituality or to what I have shared or what you have seen me shared, or what is on your mind that is well-to-do. Now, I will give an example of something that happened to me and how it is that I'm seeing that I need to correct where it is that I'm putting my energy. So today I was having a conversation, and in having that conversation with someone else, a real person, in having that conversation, I recognized that, or to go forward, I was having the conversation about my past, this past in this life. So when I was about 6 years old, maybe 6 or thereabout years old, and I was realizing that one of the things I used to do is I used to dance a lot. And as I used to dance a lot, it was pleasant to my mother to watch me dance a lot. And one of the things that I would dance to is the rhythmic vibe of how it is that she used to grate coconut, shred the coconut on this device we call a grater, right? So as you shred the coconut to make it more pleasant and more pleasurable, you would do it in a rhythmic way. And I found that rhythmic way to be something that I can dance to. So as I was having the conversation with my partner about this nostalgic moment, we were talking about how it is that we interpret these memories. And in me interpreting the memory, I wanted to go in the memory egoically. I wanted to describe the memory in a way that is protective. And it was in a way that was protective to me and to my motherhood womb, because I wanted to show that I have a full grasp egoically of what took place. And my spirit said, no, don't think about the memory, simply recall the memory. And in recalling the memory, I realized that my mother truly was taking advantage of me. She had me dancing to the rhythm of what she was playing on the coconut grater, right? And she was in another story telling her friend about how it is that I would dance. And in so doing, she's telling the friend that how it is that I would dance to this rhythm. She's telling the friend not in a way of truth. She's telling the friend in a way to make herself appear as if she's caring and nurturing for this child, and that this child is so happy that this child is dancing for her dancing in light of her rhythmic nurturing care that she has brought forth. And it was funny to see, to recall the memory, because I realized that in recalling the memory, it was the most beautiful thing to do. Rather than to think of the memory, to think up the memory and then put my spin on it, put the egoic spin on it as to what it is that I was remembering, to recall the memory in light of the true light was much more beautiful. And I'm sharing that story because I realize how detrimental it is for me not to give forth my true energy. And the true energy comes through the love energy as opposed to the fear energy, right? Because the fear energy is really an illusionary energy. Fear, the acronym for fear that I use is false evidence appearing real. That's FEAR, false evidence appearing real. So up until the time when I was 38, when I had the schizophrenic break, I predominantly used, I would say I always used the fear energy, because as I discovered later on, I was a covert narcissist. And now in speaking in these ways, it is to avail myself from being the covert narcissist. So I recognize that in my relationship, my current relationship with my family, real relationship with my real family, I'm putting out fear energy onto my children. And I'm seeing that my children, and we have had discussions where my children recall the situation different than the way how I recall the situation in my ego. And it is in having these conversations, I see that I was being egoic. I see that I was being the narcissist, the covert narcissist. And as I was being the covert narcissist, it is there that I recall where it is that I put the energy. Where do I truly put the energy of goodness? Let me take a moment here, because I'm not so sure that's where I wanted to go with that, or I'm describing it properly. So okay, so what I have found is this: when I am mistreating my children, I find that I am mistreating my children because I have an ideology within my mind of how it is that children ought to be treated. And that ideology is stemming from my perception of the egoic self, of the covert narcissist, coming directly from my covert narcissist mother. So when I'm mistreating my own children, I am seeing that as I'm mistreating my own children, I'm having an idea of some other children in the imaginary world that I'm treating properly. So I'm taking the energy of love and I'm going through the fear energy. As I'm going, greetings in the chat, greetings Divine Energy Studio. As I'm having this fear relationship, going through myself, I am taking the energy that I should be giving to my real children and I'm putting it somewhere else. I'm putting it in this imaginary house with this imaginary partner, with these imaginary children. And in my mind, I'm treating those children, those family, the way that I think they ought to be treated. And those children treat me the way that I think I ought to be treated, in a malevolent way. So, for example, in my real household, I would say nothing should be left in the walkway. So when in my real household someone leaves something in the walkway, I get upset. And when I get upset, I see actively that I am getting upset because I'm perceiving things through the fear energy, as opposed to perceiving things through the love energy, which I would do it with patience, I would do it with kindness, I would do it with compassion. Why is it that someone left something in the walkway? Instead of having compassion, instead of having patience, instead of having care, instead of being mature, instead of being authentically true to the love energy, I am being inauthentic, right? And I'm being jealous of the ideology that I host in my covert narcissist being, in the false self. I'm being jealous of my mother's house. I'm being jealous of my mother's house, that in my imaginary world, my imaginary partner is acclimated to my mother's house. So my imaginary partner is doing things the way that my mother would do it. And that would be to have the walkway clear. And if anyone does not have the walkway clear, that is an enemy. You could say an enemy of the state or an enemy of the house. So in my real household, I do not have compassion. I do not have kindness. I do not have care. I parent in a misappropriated way. Instead of me holding myself accountable. Instead of me holding myself accountable, these are the things that I do. Now, in holding myself accountable after having the conversation with my partner and with my children, I see that I've been mistreating them, or I mistreated them. And there I apologize. And then now, after apologizing, I have to see that I have been hosting in my subconscious mind this family, and I have been putting energy in that family, in that misappropriated family, in the false family, with the false partner and the false children, where they treat me well in the misappropriation, because there nothing is wrong in that life, in that ideal life, in that fantasy world. Nothing is wrong, everything is perfect. They never leave anything in the walkway, because they're perfect children, they're perfect partners, that's the perfect family. That is the misappropriated fantasy world that I have created, that I am demolishing. So, in correcting my behavior, I have to go and see where I put this energy, because the energy is going to go somewhere. And I see that I keep putting this energy into this false house, with this false family, with this false partner. It's an imaginary ordeal. So as I was saying before, I see that I have an imaginary family. And what it is that I am doing is I'm taking the time with my current family, because I apologize to my family for misplacing my energy. I know I should not be getting upset when someone leaves something in the walkway. I should not be getting upset. I should approach a situation with compassion. It's not a detrimental situation, someone leaving something in the pathway. It's not a situation where I'm where I'm threatened. However, I receive it as a threat to my identity. So in acknowledging and accepting that it is not a threat to my identity, and seeing that that identity that it is a threat to is the false identity, then I de-escalate myself, I de-escalate the situation, and realize that I have been egoic, because that's how I received it. I received the energy through the fear self, through the inauthentic self. So then I realized, okay, I've been fake. I've been a covert narcissist. I was being a covert narcissist. I've been a covert narcissist. And that covert narcissist has an imaginary family. So in realizing that, I apologize. And I do my best now to not operate through the fear energy. So when I see myself going, or give me a moment. One love in the chat, one love in the chat. When I see myself operating egoically, being triggered by these things, I know that it is an attack on my authentic self. And I'm learning even as I'm talking here. When I see the trigger in my auric field that makes me want to react to something in the walkway, I know that that is an attack, that is a parasite looking to agitate my ego, looking for me to be demonic. And as I see that, I allow the energy to be by not reacting and responding. Because I know that two things are happening. One, it is my covert narcissist mother, demon, the motherhood wound in my current household, in my consciousness, in my mind, that is pressing that button, that she wants to be alive in my house, as well as it is my fantasy partner coming through my past life experience that is also in conjunction with my motherhood wound wanting to be in my household. And it is for me to respond to that demonic energy, respond to the fear in the wound, the demon in the wound, and not let it be. And in so doing, I am living in a responsible way. I'm living with the imaginary self and not being the imaginary self. I trust that this explanation suits everybody well, that it is clear, and I will watch this episode again and see if that if it goes well with me. As I have it in my current mind, it is clear what it is that I am saying. Now, if there's anyone in the chat, I invite them to send comments or questions, well-to-do comments, well-to-do questions. I see someone here asking me if I play reggae. No, I do not play reggae. I listen to reggae. Someone is saying it's Bob Marley's brother from another mother. We're all brothers, and that is true. One love in the chat. I encourage everyone to do their soul work. And this is a new moon broadcast, and I'm broadcasting based on the truth that there is a new moon coming up in Cancer, and this Cancer relates to the family. And as I am a North Node in Cancer, South Node in Capricorn, this is very important time for me. As I relay this information throughout my system, I'm transmitting it to the ones here in the chat, to have an expression of truth in my being, something that I can hold myself accountable for in being authentic. And I'm going to Divine Energy Studio is saying this new moon is preparing us to break family ties, and that is exactly true. And thank you for that comment. And this is what I am doing, because I've seen that I have created a false family. I've created a false family with a false partner based on false identity based in the motherhood wound and fatherhood wound that I was carrying. All this I'm seeing, and I'm trusting that I'm doing the work to break those ties right now. The energies, I'm seeing clearly that what I'm witnessing is familial based. There is, I am having thoughts of my mother's birthday, which was on the 6th of this month. I'm having thoughts of my brother and sister. I'm having thoughts of my father. I'm having thoughts of my past life in this life, my past family arrangements, and how those family arrangements are affecting my perception of what a family is supposed to be right now in my family. And I'm seeing that many, I'm struggling to find, I have not been able to find, this is the truth. I have not been able to find a single moment of my past 38 years. I'm currently 44. My schizophrenic break took place when I was 38. And prior to that schizophrenic break, I cannot find a single moment when I operated through the love frequency. I have always operated through the fear frequency prior to that schizophrenic break. Not only have I always operated through that, I am confident that my mother has always related to me through the fear frequency. My sister has always done that, and my brother has always done that. And the little time that I knew my father, as my father left the home when I was 4 years old, the little time that I spent with my father at 4 years old, he had not related to me to anything except fear energy. And when I met up back with him at 19 years old, up until the 38 years old, I had not experienced anything through the love frequency from any one of my 4 immediate family members. And I am seeing that I am frying my current family with the oil of the past. And I am determined that I am the thinker that thinks the thought. I am the creator of my own manifest destiny. And I am determined that I have nothing else to do but to change that curse that is in my blood. And as I am determined to do that, this is why I am speaking the way I am speaking currently. Because I am changing that curse of being that way with my current family through the curse of my mother and father's bloodline, and through me picking up on my own through trauma, through my wounds, a imaginary family based on past life experiences and based on and that's it, based on past life experiences. Divine Energy Studio says, Ashe, time for the false matrix to fall while the fifth dimension builds. And I'm happy you mentioned the fifth dimension, because the other day I was reading something on your channel, and you mentioned something about the 3 phases of existence within the fifth dimension. And I'm confident, there's the word, I'm confident that I am existing in the fifth dimension predominantly. However, I see that I have an addiction to an obsession. And that addiction to the obsession, which is the false family, which is the false identity, which is the false partner, right? My obsession with that person, with the false person, is causing me to be in and out of the fifth dimension. And as such, I categorize myself, I put myself in the category of midway creature. Because if I remember correctly, there were 3 categories. There's the midway creature, there is the unawares, and then there is those who are living in the 5D. And as I am looking at those states of being, I know I'm not the unawares. However, I operate as the unawares when I'm operating through the fear frequency, which is the addiction to the obsession, which brings in the fantasy aspect, which is the false identity operating in the false world, which is the egoic self, which is the demonic self, which is the illusionary self. So when I'm doing that, I'm definitely operating as an unawares. However, me being in the 5D, it keeps me accountable to see myself operating as a midway creature. And that is what I'm going to say about that. So the this new moon in Cancer is breaking family ties. And for those who come across this channel, come across this message, I encourage you to get in alignment with the moon. Get in alignment with the new moon, get in alignment with the full moon. The full moon is when the tides rise emotionally, physically, and it also rises etherically. And the new moon is when the tides rise highest etherically, and it also rises physically. These rising tides are moments when your emotions raise, where you can watch and see your emotions to the best of your conscious mind. So if you want to be a conscious being, having a spiritual experience as a human being, then the best way that I can see, and I'm telling you this from a person who has encountered, who has been diagnosed with schizophrenia, I'm telling you this, that the best way that I have found to do this is to track your energy through the phases of the moon. High tide, low tide. High moon, low moon. Bright moon, dark moon. It's always there. And it is for you to track your energy as the moon goes. As above, so below. As within, so without. The stars that we see with our two eyes are the stars that are within with our single eye. And that is where I'm going to close this portal. And as a matter of truth, I'm going to sit for about 30 seconds, maybe a minute. And if anyone has anything to put in the chat, I encourage you to put it in the chat so we can continue the conversation. Otherwise, my time here in this portal is coming to an end, and I will close the portal. Divine Energy Studio says, this pivotal moment in time is guiding us all into a consistency of our ascending timelines. Ashe, Ashe, and Ashe. It is a pivotal moment. And as one of the annoyances in my ego is when I hear people, spiritual people speaking spiritually, I should say, as well as spiritual people, say things like this. This pivotal moment in time is guiding us all into a consistency of our ascending timelines. Because what I hadn't recognized and realized is that there are pivotal moments. And because I used to be aligned with the 3D, I used to look for 3D definitions of what pivotal is. So someone would say at work, for example, there's a pivotal moment in this deadline. And I would accept that pivotal moment based on what the 3D realm says is important. Another example is, okay, Christmas is a pivotal time for our economy. Thanksgiving is a pivotal time for our economy. New Year's is a pivotal time for our economy. Or for Black Americans in this country called the United States of America, Juneteenth is a pivotal time for our culture. And I would accept those definitions of pivotal without even justifying it. I would accept it and I would act accordingly, because then is when I would allocate my currency, my money, to deal with the lifestyle that I wanted to live according to the three-dimensional realm. I would accept it without even knowing it, that I'm operating according to these pivotal times. And I'm seeing that that is according to the 3D realm. That is according to the economy, which is a perspective of lack, because economy does represent lack. When you study the economy, you're studying how best to use resources, which means that you do not trust in your abundance and trust in the allowance of your energy to provide you with the proper instructions to use all that you have abundantly. So that is the study of lack. So now that I'm in the 5D realm, I'm existing as a 5D creature. I'm existing within the 5D frequency. I understand that pivotal means in alignment with timelines. Pivotal means in alignment with the moon. Pivotal means in alignment with the dominant frequency, which is love. So the full moon is a pivotal time. The new moon is a pivotal time. As the stars align with this 4444 planetary conjunction, it is a pivotal time. Thank you for the hearts. These are the things that I'm talking about, representing authenticity within my consciousness. It has been a journey to drop the anchor of the density of the 3D realm, to expand through that anchoring into the 5D realm. A simple thing as the word pivotal does not mean what it used to mean. Ashe and Ashe, Divine Energy Studio. A simple thing as the word pivotal does not mean what it used to mean. And it has taken me 6 years after my schizophrenic break to get to this point, and it has been a tumultuous journey. Very rewarding. Hard and rewarding. I'm a spiritual being having a human existence. Ashe and amen. And that is where I'm going to close this portal. Thank you all for being here, and I thank those who will come upon this message, and I encourage you to leave a comment or a question, and I will do my best to honor the channel of this portal. Ashe and amen.